Hey everyone, my name is Sam, and I'm a jazz studies saxophone major at Arizona State University and a Nash intern this year. And today we're going to be checking out these Arizona All-State Jazz Band Etudes on tenor. One, two. Okay, so this first etude is a classic medium up-tempo kind of swing passage that you might find in a saxophone solely on a swing tune. So firstly, I'd like to say that we should pay attention to the written articulation and really emphasize those accented and marcato notes so they stick out against the unaccented notes. The people that wrote this etude did a good job of putting lots of articulation in here to let you know exactly what they think you should be doing as far as where to articulate, where to not articulate. Um, so yeah, pay close attention to that. Um, Remember that if you have a string of accented eighth notes or of unaccented eighth notes in a row, I should say, try to play them nice and legato and connected. Even if there isn't a slur marking above them, this is sort of like something that's tacitly understood in this style and setting. So yeah, when we have these long strings of unaccented eighth notes, make sure to play them nice and smooth. Um, One thing to point out is don't play too heavy. And what do I mean by that? I mean, don't play with too much kind of force in your fingers. Try not to lift your fingers super far off the pearls and like have all this kind of extra movement going on. Just keep everything nice and relaxed, nice and kind of zen. That'll help you really not struggle too much if when you're pushing the tempo and trying to get this etude up to the performance tempo, which is 200 beats per minute. So if you keep things nice and light, um, it'll be easier to play fast, and it'll also make the accents kind of pop more. So um, another thing is practice with a metronome and practice slowly with the metronome. Uh, and when you're practicing with the metronome slowly, pay special attention to not just the notes and rhythms until you feel comfortable with those, but also the articulations and the dynamics, all the things that really make the music kind of stand out. So if you do that at a slow tempo and you kind of master that, and you're also not taking your fingers too far off the pearls, keeping them nice and attached to the pearls, then once you start to creep the tempo up to get closer to that 200, things are gonna lay easier, and things are gonna be easier for you overall. So finally, if you want something in a similar style and tempo to this to listen to for reference, check out the tune Flight of the Foo Birds. Flight of the Foo Birds off of Count Basie's record called The Atomic Mr. Basie. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so for Etude 2, ballad obviously, the most important detail with this excerpt is right at the top, even before you see any notes. It says swing ballad up there next to the tempo. In many classic jazz recordings, you'll hear ballads played one of two ways, either a straight eighths ballad, or, like in this case, a swing ballad. So straight eighth ballads are exactly as the name sounds. The eighth notes are played straight instead of being swung. And likewise, in a swing ballad, the eighth notes are being swung. So for a good example of a swing ballad to listen to, check out the tune My Romance, performed by Ben Webster on the album Ben and Sweets. And also for a good example of a straight eighths ballad, check out Dexter Gordon playing Darn That Dream on the album Ballads. When you listen, really focus in on the rhythm section and the subdivisions that they're playing between the notes. I think you'll be able to hear the difference between that swung ballad versus the straight eighths ballad. So one of the trickiest parts of this etude, in my opinion, is the switching between 16th notes and swung eighth notes. So here's an exercise that can help make that easier. We're going to start with our metronome, and we'll set it to, say, 60 beats per minute for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just clap a measure of eighth note triplets followed by a measure of 16th notes. So here's our tempo. 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. 1 E and a 2 E and a E and a 4 E and a triplet, 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 triplet. 1 E and a 2 E and a. So try this out. This kind of flip-flopping between the eighth note triplets and the 16th notes. The eighth note triplets are kind of the subdivision that we should be thinking about whenever we're playing these swung eighth notes. So see if you can try this exercise and then maybe start with 16th notes and then go to triplets, or play half a measure of 16th, half a measure of triplet eighth notes. You know, mix it up, and also try it at different tempos too. This etude is at 80 beats per minute, and I was just doing that example at 60. So try it at different speeds and see if you can keep up with it. But I think that'll help you a lot if you can flip in your mind between those triplets and the 16th notes kind of fluidly. One, two, 1, 2. So, Etude 3 is our samba etude. Samba music is a very rich and deep-running tradition that comes to us from Brazil. So if you want to check out some great samba music, check out the music of Antonio Carlos Jobim, who is an incredibly prolific composer in the world of samba and bossa nova. And if you want to hear a big band playing in a samba style similar to what our etude is, a good one to listen to is Samba Ti Kaye from Mark Taylor and the big band. So that's Samba space Ti space Kaye from Mark Taylor and the big band, just to get a sense of how a big band might interpret the sound of samba. So it's important to note with this etude that we aren't swinging eighth notes. We're playing straight eighth notes. And just like in our first etude, pay close attention to the accents and the articulations. We want those to really pop out. Just like in our first etude also, keep it nice and light. We don't want to kind of have too much tension whenever we're playing this. We want to keep it nice and flowy. You'll notice it's also in cut time, so we really want to be feeling this in that big 2-beat. So da do do da da do 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 da da do do da 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 da, and so on. So instead of 4/4 like our first etude, we want to feel this in more of a 2 feel. This etude would also be a great time to consider using dynamics to help shape the lines. So here are a few examples. What if we added a sforzando piano crescendo onto the long note in measure 4? So help really shape that long note instead of just having it kind of hang there for two beats. Another great example is in measures 5 through 8, we have these arpeggios that start high and then they go down and then arpeggiate back up. and then go down. What if we decrescendoed as the arpeggios are going down and crescendoed as they go up? So here's what I mean. Something like that. And finally, in the last two measures, there's several ways you can shape that line, that kind of descending line. What if we did we started on that A, the pickup to the second to last measure, and we decrescendoed until we got to that E flat, also accented, the pickup to the last measure, and then we kind of brought the volume back up and then decrescendoed again. So here's what I mean by that. 1, 2, 3. So these are just a few ways to kind of think about how you can use dynamics to really make these lines kind of speak and kind of pop out of the page. One, two, three. Okay, so this last etude, etude 4, is our funk etude. So at the top, you'll notice that it says swing 16ths and straight 8th notes. So I like to imagine a classic kind of tambourine pattern for this etude. It might sound something like this. So the 8th notes are still still straight, right? But then whenever you fill it in with those 16th notes, that's where the swing is happening. So yeah, you'll sort of hear this in like a classic tambourine pattern for any funk music, or you'll hear it in a lot of contexts. So that's kind of what I imagine whenever I am thinking this kind of swing, shuffle, 16th notes based stuff. Another thing you'll notice is that a lot of the language in this etude is built up of two sets of notes. The first is a major pentatonic with the flat third added. So our major pentatonic, we'll take the example of E major. We've got E, F sharp, G sharp, B, and C sharp. And we're also going to be adding in that G natural. So it'll sound something like this. That's our first set of notes that a lot of this stuff is built off of. And our second set is the minor pentatonic. So again, I'll use the example of E. We're going to have E, G natural, A, B, D natural. And we're also going to be adding in the flat fifth, which in this case would be B flat. So this is how that would sound. So those two kind of sets of notes, the major pentatonic with the added flat third and the minor pentatonic with the added flat fifth, is really what a lot of these melodies are built off of. So check out those two scales and how they kind of relate to this etude. The final thing that I'll add for this one is if you want to listen to a saxophone player that really kind of embodies this sort of language, this funk stuff, check out saxophonist Bob Mincer. He has a lot of great recordings. He played with the Yellow Jackets, and he has all sorts of stuff. He's played with many bands, and he really kind of embodies this sort of funky style. So if you're looking for inspiration or someone to listen to help kind of get a sense of how this sort of stuff sounds, Bob Mincer is a great choice.